Oh, well, this one's going to be a rough one. Doing this with a bloody Japanese beer or fake Australian beer. But yeah, let's talk about Aukus and our nuclear history with the United States. Righto. I'll make a fucking intro. Ugh, this is going to be a rough one. I really do hate these, fake Australian beers. But it's beer nonetheless. So, with all this sort of Aukus talks, that have been happening that Scott Morrison originally dragged us into, and the current Prime Minister's kind of had to fucking, sort out the fucking mess of, it occurred to me that not a lot of people actually know the full story with Australia and nuclear, I'll just use the word proliferation. So, anything to do with, whether it's nuclear weapons or nuclear power, anything to do with, nukes and the military. Not even going to touch on nuclear power in this country. You know what? Actually, I will touch on that towards the end. I've actually got a point to make there. Pardon me. So, going back to, 1952, I think it was, the Brits started testing nuclear weapons here in Australia, in South Australia and in one place out in Western Australia. And they did this for about 10, 11 years. So early 60s they stopped. And the whole idea was, the Brits had just seen, the Yanks dropping a literal fucking son or two on the Japanese to end the Pacific War. And they wanted in on that. They were like, oh, yep, we want the mini suns to drop on people. And they also wanted the power advantages as well. During this 10 years, more and more, the Australian military as well was showing interest in it. And it was kind of went without saying that if the Brits were going to be, using us to be testing the weapons and whatnot, that, we would get a slice of that pie. But at the same time, there was a lot of, environmental factors and things like that were, arguments that were cropping up over the time within the Australian public. And they say that the reason it stopped was because of the partial weapons ban or whatever, nuclear ban or whatever, that stopped us from being able to test, underwater, on land, or in outer space. But the real reason that we were roped into that treaty was actually because America didn't like the idea of its allies, the Brits and the Aussies, having their own nuclear weapons program. They just flat out didn't want it. And so they actually roped England in to their nuclear weapons program that was still, getting off the ground and whatnot. They did do it first, so it makes sense that they would have something already in place, well and truly ready to go. And they scooped England up in that under the condition that they had nothing to do with us when it come to testing their nukes and stuff like that. And it's just one of those first instances of America trying to force themselves to be the big dog, and everyone else has to kind of bow to them. And then we come to Scotland. There's a couple of times where we've argued that we should get him, and the arguments always fall on deaf ears, and nothing really ever comes of it. Eventually, I live near Amberley Air Base. There's always bloody Air Force folks flying over. It'll happen. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear that in the footage, but yeah. And then, come the later end of Scott Morrison's prime ministership in the in the 2020s, he decided to fuck off the French, and by that I mean he actively pissed off the French. They pulled their ambassadors and stuff out of Australia, shit like that. They were not happy that he was just we're going to change our mind. We're not going to do this deal that we've already got the French to start to actually build diesel subs with, and we're going to go this nuclear option. Now, the nuclear sub option does make more sense, but, you don't dog your mates like that. And that's what Scott Morrison did when he first initially announced AUKUS. But by the time... I love the F-35s, but fucking hell. be known, I've actually got a reason to be annoyed at military spending because I live near it, but I'm still not because I understand the reason for it. But anyway, so by the time Anthony Albanese came into power for his first term, it was already too late to back out of the Aukus agreement and whatnot. Like, he'd been wedged on that, right? Like, the scare campaigns that the Libs always run is that, Labor's always weak on defence. So he couldn't really back out of Aukus and try and re-sign up with the French. That would cost even more money than the money that he actually worked out with the French to, cool them off, right? And that's the thing as well, people forget. It's like Albo actually calmed down the French over that whole fiasco. But anyway, so he's kind of been wedged into the Aukus deal, and we do need subs and stuff like that because our diesel subs are getting a bit on the nose, and yeah, so he's been wedged into that and he's made it work. Now, it was never ever a good deal as far as how long it was going to take, and this time round into his second term, he's just gotten back from the US and whatnot. He had this bloody meeting with Trump, and one of the main things that they did actually talk about was the Aukus deal, the submarines. And because we're already buying all these planes, F-35s and stuff like that off of them, and we've got something that they want, we've got the Ghost Bats and the Ghost Sharks that we're now making here. He's kind of he's wedged Donald Trump into not only announcing his absolute commitment to AUKUS, but also trying to speed up the process, because they do have a couple of Virginia class subs that were originally in that deal for us to get that we're now actually probably going to get a bit quicker, and and America themselves also need to start making new subs and stuff like that. They've got enough right now, but they do need more in the future. And so, yeah, it's a win-win sort of agreement, and it's being sped up because, again, we're already buying all of this stuff, and they need our rare earths and stuff like that. So, yeah, fucking speed it up. Now, this is where I will touch on the nuclear argument, the nuclear power argument that everyone doesn't seem to properly understand. No one's arguing that nuclear power wouldn't be a good alternative, and those that are honestly, they're just fucking morons. The real argument that was being made by a lot of people on the the Labor side of politics, is that it's just not a rational way to go about it. We don't have the experience and all that with nuclear power, or just nuclear anything, full stop. And one of the really, really good ways to get that, and again, the argument that they put forward was it's going to take 30, 40 years, right? Now, it's only going to take 10, 20 years for us to have, multiple nuclear subs within our own Navy under this AUKUS deal, and that's looking like it's probably only going to be more on the 10-year side of things. Because that's the thing, the 20 odd year, time frame is when we get the last of them. We get, it comes in batches. It's the way fucking military procurement always fucking works. Kevin Rudd was the one that, started getting us, actually agreed to get us the F-35s, and at first it was only a few of them, and then we get a few more, and both sides of the aisle, supported that sort of thing of acquiring the F-35s to replace some of the, outgoing sort of obsolete things like the F-111s and the fucking, now what we've got left, the FA-18 Hornets. And when it comes to the subs, right, it's not just about getting us nuclear-powered submarines so they can be under for a long-ass fucking time and all that stealth advantage that they have because they're way more quiet and stuff. It's also about actually getting that expertise into our workforce, because not everyone stays in the Navy and stuff like that for their whole lives. There are people that do it, but there are a fair chunk of people that, they go in, they get the skills in the training and stuff, through our Defence Force, and then they leave and they enter the public sector. And nuclear-powered subs is a really, really good way to just actually get that understanding of the technology into our, I wasn't going to do this, but fuck, here we are. But to get that understanding into the public sector, so, in 20, 30, maybe 40 years' time, when as well the technology itself has improved and we can actually have what, these fucking, kooks on the internet describe as clean reactors, because I'm sorry, but like these small modular reactors are a very long way off, and the only two countries that actually make one that you can buy are China and Russia. And no, we ain't buying their shit. That's just not happening. Like, for multiple reasons, it's not happening. And so the next option is to wait for the technology to pick up. And there's a British company, an American company that were, starting to work out, how much it was going to cost to actually get into the design phase. Like, they were just in like a preliminary sort of phase there. They went bust. They've already thrown in the towel as far as that's concerned. So it is going to take a while for that to... And then another one people bring up, the thorium reactors. That fucking idiot Dutton brought up those as well. And it's like India, I think, is the only country actually getting anywhere close to testing that, right? Now, so again, this is technology that's a long way away. And so we actually do have the time to, again, procure nuclear subs, get that understanding of how the technology works, how to maintain that sort of stuff. And then, eventually, when the technology has actually gotten to a state where it's actually fucking safe for us to have it anywhere on our fucking country's soil, that we can actually look at maybe doing that. But that is 20, 30, 40 years away. I swear I wasn't going to do it, and fucking, here I am. I just spent half a video talking about it. But anyway, there's the Aussie history of fucking nukes and a prediction for the future when it comes to nukes. I do this begrudgingly with a foreign-owned beer. Cheers.